Hello everybody, it's Martin, aka Anders, and today we're going to be talking about the new agent Killjoy. As I'm sure you can tell from the title, we're also going to hit another major topic, and it's one that I've wanted to talk about for a really long time now. I think with the release of Killjoy, it's something that definitely needs to be discussed and should be on the front of everybody's minds, especially the developers. Let's hop right into it. As I'm sure many of you have already tried Killjoy yourself on live servers, reviewing her kit feels a little redundant, so I'm just going to gloss over things incredibly quickly. First, we have her Q, Alarm Bot. Equip a covert alarm bot, fire to deploy a bot that hunts down enemies that get in range. After reaching its target, the bot explodes, applying vulnerable. Hold equip to recall a deployed bot. This functions a little bit like a cross between a Raze boom bot and a Cypher cyber cage. It's a placeable ability that once people get within a certain range, it runs at them and makes them vulnerable. It is shootable once you get within a slight target radius, but is widely considered a little bit aggressive at the moment, where its movement speed is so high that it is unavoidable with anything short of a jet tailwind. Next up we have E Turret. Equip a turret, fire to deploy a turret that fires at enemies in a 180-degree cone, hold equip to recall the deployed turret. This is definitely the ability that freaked out the most people during her initial reveal, worried that we were going to have some Torbjorn-esque turret killing agent, and the reality is, once she hit live, that this thing shoots nerf darts. It's 6 damage per bullet, and is almost entirely an information gathering tool, not a damage one. Now we get into the stuff that's a little bit sketchy. C. Nano Swarm. Equip a Nano Swarm grenade, fire to throw the grenade. Upon landing, the Nano Swarm goes covert. Activate the Nano Swarm to deploy a damaging swarm of nanobots. It is basically a cyber cage molly. This ability can definitely get quite terrifying when you consider that it comes with 2 charges, and that Alarm Bot's vulnerability increases the damage of the Nano Swarm. There's a lot of opportunity to set up sequential nano swarms so that if you have an enemy pushing up a long corridor and you trigger the ladder, they're either forced to push into you, which will likely mean they're jumping into a turret crossfire that you have very favorable setup for, or they have to double back into your second nano swarm and are just outright dead for it. For just one quick look at how nano swarm can come into play, I have a clip here from Hiko.
Quiet. Smoke B mid. On the face, smoke me off.
Yeah, he's very quiet.
They're just freaked out too.
They walled up. They walled up.
One mid.
One's first coming out. He's on the hard left. Wait, they walled their own wall. I don't know why. Okay, they're getting the orb now. Yeah, they walled to look through the window.
Cypher, I'm not like. Yeah, they could.
There's 2 outside of B right now.
Oh, cat too.
Can you smoke on me?
Out of charges. Placing swarm grenade out.
Little turret killer or what? What was that?
No, that was a molly kill actually.
Oh my god.
Dude, that's so stupid.
Next up we have the most interesting part of Killjoy's kit, and that will be X, her ultimate lockdown. Equip the lockdown device, fire to deploy the device. After a long windup, the device detains all enemies caught in the radius. The device can be destroyed by enemies. This ability is pretty insane. The long windup mentioned in the tooltip is a 13-second timer, after which lockdown will detain, functionally stunning, all enemies in an incredibly large radius, making them unable to use abilities or rifles and only move at an incredibly low speed. Effectively, after Killjoy's ultimate goes down, it gives your opponents one of 2 options. Fast push Killjoy to kill the lockdown, or get the hell out of there. This clip from Hiko shows a situation where exactly that option was given, and the opponents picked incredibly wrong.
Got to mark it.
Oh, they won't wait.
Are they coming B on me or?
I know exactly where you
I think they're
are.
all on market. Can I get help?
Oh, they won't.
Yeah, rotate, go.
Initiated.
I'm ulting myself.
One left.
The eyes are down.
I'm excited. No abilities for you. No abilities for you. Anybody else? Anyone else want some? I'm here. Can't use abilities. I'm gonna ace.
Give it to you.
Thank you. Dude, that is so insanely broken. I don't care what anybody says. No, my ace. Dude,
Oh my god.
that is so broken. What can they actually do about that? They literally have to run away
No, why aren't they shooting?
or they have to push me, but the Sage slowed me.
Why do they have the knife out?
Dude, that was actually sick. WTF, the F, dude. That was actually kind of nuts, dude.
But that's not all. It's just as strong on offense and can be used to completely clear out a site. Let's tie back in with Hiko to see what that looks like.
Alright, the plan is we're going to fight for B, and then I'm going to get the ult orb and ult from here, and all of B will be clear after that, right? We just run in.
I have the spike.
Good shit.
Ah, Sage is B this time. Interesting. I can all of sight. I'm ulting for this.
Hey, Omen's here as well.
Yeah, yeah. Omen's in sight. We can just run. We can wait. We can wait. It's all good. Nice, he said. We can run in with this. 2, 1, 0. Nobody's in there. Nobody's sight. Sight's full clear.
Playing default.
Alarm bot out. Placing swarm grenade. Placing swarm grenade. Spike planted.
I have a turret on the flank. We have trips.
One's left.
One's coming sidewalk.
Right.
2 sidewalkers. 1 sidewalk.
Swarm grenade out.
I think left and right.
You will
Okay,
not
there is
kill
left.
my
That's
allies.
res on this side.
Rocket.
I'll peek on you.
Last player standing.
Swarm grenade out.
Wait, we had boom. Oh, I thought my Raze was gonna ult there.
And so those are the Killjoy basics. We saw what her abilities do and a couple examples of how they look in action, but something I'm sure a lot of you are more interested in is how she's going to fit into the overall metagame. Let's jump right into that. A common topic of conversation when Killjoy was originally spoiled is that she's a sentinel, obviously, and because of that, people associated her with Cypher and offered her up as a replacement. I couldn't disagree with that assumption more. I think that there's almost no universe where we see Killjoy as a Cypher replacement. A quote from Morello on how the two agents archetypally fit into the game: Cypher is a map control agent, and Killjoy is a site control agent. A minor difference between the two, but a difference nonetheless. I think the key differentiator here is that Cypher's ability to lock down larger segments of the map with greater ease allows him far more flexibility than Killjoy, while Killjoy's utility is far more punishing when you run into it. It's a case of widespread passive information gathering and map lockdown versus more concentrated site lockdown and zonal control that has more direct kill threat. It's for these reasons that I don't think we'll ever see one or the other prioritized. I think we're likely to see both. If someone were to ask you, as a competitive player of a game, would you rather have map control or site control? The sane answer is, why not both? Given that, I think we're likely to see two incredibly common compositions moving forward that take advantage of this now triple sentinel core that I've dubbed cybersecurity. The cybersecurity core of Cypher, Killjoy, Sage, and Sova is more or less an adaptation of what we've seen recently with the dark web. It has incredible information gathering, incredible map control, and incredible stall ability, and is a prime enabler of the op meta. I think the two likely partners for this core are going to be Omen and Raze, Omen being the sort of de facto transitional composition, where people are coming off of using dark web and obviously going to be very used to using Omen's utility inside of their executes. And in Raze's case, I think it's likely to be more after we've seen a couple of tournaments with the cybersecurity core in play, where teams understand that they are going to need a lot more ability to clear out util, and Raze's blast packs to clear out corridors of things like alarm bots is going to become incredibly important. The sad truth is that right now, Sova's Shock Dart and Raze's Kit are the closest things to anti-utility that exist in the game, and where we're going to be shifting into a meta of Triple Sentinel, and yes, we will be moving into a meta of Triple Sentinel. That goes up in value exponentially. Obviously, we can expect some level of compositional variety, but in all likelihood, these comps will make up the overwhelming majority of the competitive landscape, and it's something that maybe we should start asking ourselves some questions about. We're now in a situation where we have agents in the game that are soft and arguably hard counters to not only certain agents, but entire types of play. Let's take Killjoy's ultimate, for example. We saw in the clips of Hiko earlier that it can be an incredibly strong defensive stalling tool, but also an oppressive offensive tool that forces entire defensive teams to play retake regardless of whether or not they want to. You can make the case that, oh, well, they can just play counteroffensive and fast push the offense to clear the Killjoy ultimate, but given certain maps designs, I'll be completely frank, that won't be an option a very large amount of the time. So in Killjoy, we have an agent who has an ability that, roughly 3 times a map, will completely invalidate the most common defensive approach to the game while simultaneously being incredibly strong on defense itself. It counters, in a soft sense, entrenchment defenses. This now begs the question, given that certain abilities exist in the game that are inherently better against certain styles, why do we not have any mechanisms in the game that allow us to take overt advantage of those? Riot's current philosophy when it comes to Valorant agents is that they want you to be able to pick anything you want. Do you want to pick 5 sentinels? That's viable. Do you want to pick 5 duelists? Also viable. I'm going to lay down some hard truth right now. That's never going to be possible. Point blank, never gonna happen. The thought that certain playstyles will ever equalize is just wishful and idealistic thinking to the extreme. In a game like a tactical FPS, there is always going to be certain styles that are better than others. And when we're dealing with a situation where you have no information of your enemy's team compositions, people are going to gravitate towards the mean best comp that is just the most versatile, best across all different play styles, and we're going to see extreme compositional homogenization. We're going to see the same 5 stack at the highest level of play all the time if this philosophy exists. There's no two ways about it. You can't say, oh, we're just going to make every playstyle equal. That's never going to happen. You are going to end up in a situation where there is a clear 5 stack that is the most versatile composition, and everyone is going to run it. We have already proven this in Valorant already, every single day and every single week and every single month since this game's release. We saw at the beginning of beta a single composition rise to the top as the most versatile in the common core. We saw it for 65% of all tournament compositions. We then saw some nerfs that made there be a little bit of cyclicality to that. And then we saw shock and awe at 60% for every single tournament for the next month. And then we saw some more changes, and now we see dark web at 55% plus for every single tournament for the last 2 weeks. How long is it going to take Riot's development team to realize that if they take this approach, where everything is going to be quote-unquote balanced, all you're going to end up with is a very clear best 5 stack that is going to just dominate the entire competitive landscape, and then we never see any 5 agents until the next balance patch? There needs to be a system that makes it better, and the answer to that is a draft phase. Well, look what we have here. It is my bootleg Valorant draft phase. Let's see just how this might work using the example that I am worried about moving forward, that triple sentinel is just going to dominate everything. I, as an offensive team, decide to open up my draft with the most versatile controller in the game who can also play a pseudo entry role in Omen. This keeps me wide open for compositional decisions throughout the rest of my draft, and is a non-indicator of what my overarching game plan is. I toss it over to my opponents, and they answer in kind with an Omen of their own and a Cypher, the best map control agent in the game and a clear choice for a team starting on the defender's side. No surprises yet. This is where I start showing a few of my cards. I pick up Cypher for map control, looking towards both lurking on my attacker side as well as my defensive half, and I also pick up Sova for aggressive information gathering as well as a bit of utility clearing with shock darts. And now we hit where the draft phase really does its work. My opponent is at an impasse. They, in their next 2 picks, will unequivocally signal to me what their overarching game plan is, whether they're playing entrenchment, whether they're playing counteroffensive, whether they're playing triple sentinel. There is no way to pick yourself out of this corner without indicating some sense of what your game plan is. They opt for the more flexible option in Sage and Jett, leaving themselves fairly open. Despite that intended flexibility, their signaling with their Jett indicates that they want to play into op meta, and the impending threat of a Defender 5 Killjoy pick means that the likelihood of triple sentinel means that I have to start adjusting my composition accordingly. I need to have retake ability knowing that Killjoy is potentially in play, and I also need the ability to clear utility. Given that threat, I pick up a second sentinel in the form of Sage, as well as Raze as an op flex, as well as that utility clearing that I might need access to. Not only have I not funneled into a generic triple sentinel comp, but I'm in a completely different archetype now running a modified shock and awe. The enemy team opts for their original game plan of locking in a Defender 5 Killjoy, and now we have a good game on our hands. There are 2 clearly distinct compositions on both sides, with unique goals and unique playstyles. This is what a tactical FPS, and Valorant in specific, should look like at the highest level of play. I could rant about draft theory for literally weeks, and hopefully I can in the future if they add it. But one thing that I need to point out that is incredibly important about the last screen is that there were no bans. I don't know what it is, but anyone who ever discusses a draft phase in Valorant seems literally incapable of separating it from a ban phase. There are too few agents in this game to have a ban phase. Coincidentally, by that same line of reasoning is why I think we need a draft phase. There are too few agents to not allow us to make dynamic decisions about what our opponents are picking. We're just gonna pick the generic best 5 agents because it's not a big enough pool for there to be diverse options and direct alternatives. There's a clear top 5 agent versatile pool, with really the only differentiation being a 5th slot flex that is tuned to the players on a team. Some people are gonna be okay with that. I'm personally not. I will be completely unabashed about this. I think that the lack of a draft phase in this game right now is the biggest failure thus far. It stifles strategic innovation in this game and takes away from the type of evolution and interest and intrigue that keeps strategists like myself incredibly tied into this. If you look back at teams like Fabrican, who innovated the Sageless composition in Europe, that kind of thought process is so much more poignant and so much more dramatic and so much more interesting when it happens in a draft phase, when you have casters able to talk about the in-depth thinking that goes into why they're picking the way that they're picking, the narrative about the playstyle that they're developing and how they're shifting away from the overall meta. This is like the biggest lost opportunity in all of competitive Valorant, period. I don't think it's even arguable. Obviously, I get super hyped about this. I have what I hope isn't a hot take, but maybe it is. I will never sugarcoat my opinion on this. There should be a draft phase in Valorant. I will never not think that. I'm super interested to hear your guys' thoughts down below on this. Obviously, I'm opinionated on it. Are you opinionated on it? Do you think I'm totally off my rocker? Do you think it's okay that Valorant has this sort of staged metagame where there's a clear best comp that has a 60% incidence, and then nerfs happen, and then a new obvious best comp comes up, and then nerfs happen and a new best comp comes out? I don't think it's ever going to be okay that we have a composition with an over 50% meta presence. I literally just think that the fact that that is a thing is unacceptable. That proves to me that there is some sort of failure in the way that the game is balanced right out of the gate. And I guess, in a sense, it's not even a matter of balance. It's just that there aren't enough incentives for people to pick interestingly. It makes the most sense to pick the 5 best agents or 5 most versatile agents, and that's that. There needs to be something else here. Argue with me if you will, and I'm sure you will, down in the comments below. And also, I guess technically kind of sort of a little bit this video was about Killjoy, so let me know your thoughts on Killjoy. Do you think, like Hiko does, that she's super imba and game-breaking, or do you think that she's a little bit more on the balanced side? My personal take on her, I don't think she's that crazy until you stack her in triple sentinel. I think the interplay that she brings when you tag her up with a Sage and a Cypher is where she gets terrifying, And even given that, I think her offensive side is literal trash when she doesn't have her ultimate. And so your ability to string ultimates together is incredibly important. You basically need to be getting frags out whenever you drop lockdown. That's my take on Killjoy. Would love to hear your thoughts down below. Per the usual, if you're enjoying my content, please tie in with me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, all at AnderzzTV. I'm actually going to be casting an event here on Saturday and Sunday with TJ, a caster from Overwatch, CSGO, and League of Legends. You can catch that at twitch.tv/esportstj. Again, that's going to be Saturday and Sunday. We're going to be casting the qualifiers for the next EU Ignition Series event, the Challenger Mode qualifiers for the Allied Esports event that are coming through, so please tune in for that. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.